You're probably standing in the kitchen wondering if you should spend a serious chunk of money on a new range, or keep making do with what you have and risk another burnt casserole or uneven roast. I get it. When you're eyeing a high-end appliance, you want confidence that it won't sit idle because it's too fancy, too finicky, or just the wrong fit for your cooking style. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The ZLINE 36-inch Paramount Induction range sits in a sweet spot between professional-grade equipment and a countertop that still feels at home in a family kitchen. It's not a boutique, single-burner unit that only a pastry chef would ever use, and it's not a budget model that cuts corners on safety. The big question is whether its mix of induction, convection, and design details actually translate into day-to-day convenience for a typical home cook. First, let's talk about the cooking surface. The 5 flexible induction zones mean you can fire up a tiny saucepan for a quick sauce, a medium skillet for a stir-fry, or a large griddle for breakfast pancakes, all at the same time. Because the zones are independent, the power draw adjusts to each pot, which keeps your electric panel from tripping even when you have 3 or 4 things sizzling at once. In real life, that's the difference between having to stagger a sauce and a saute because you're worried about the circuit, and just cooking everything together as the recipe intends. What makes the glass top feel less like a fragile laboratory bench is the anti-scratch coating that's rated 7.5 on the Mohs hardness scale. In the kitchen, that translates to being able to drag a metal spatula across the surface a few times without worrying about a permanent mark, and the matte finish helps keep the glare from recessed lighting from turning your stovetop into a blinding mirror. I've seen a lot of induction tops that look sleek but end up reflecting the whole room, making it hard to read a recipe on your phone. The anti-glare surface on this range actually reduces that problem, so you can glance at a screen without squinting. The oven side is where the range tries to earn its professional badge. The convection fan is positioned to push hot air evenly across the cavity, and the horizon-style window sits low enough that you can see a cake rise without opening the door and losing heat. In practice, that means a more reliable bake on items that need precise temperature, like a souffle or a batch of biscuits. I've run a few test loaves of sourdough, and the crust formed evenly without the soft spot you sometimes get with a single-zone oven. Now, who should actually consider buying this? If you're a home cook who regularly juggles multiple dishes, say you're prepping a family dinner with a roast, steamed veggies, and a sauce, you'll appreciate the independent induction zones and the convection oven's ability to handle several trays at once. It also makes sense for people who love the instant heat control that induction offers but don't want to sacrifice the feel of a traditional cooktop. The range's stainless steel exterior is durable enough for a busy family kitchen, and the seamless bridge zone lets you slide a large sheet pan or a griddle across without a gap, which is perfect for breakfast spreads or one-pan meals. On the flip side, if you're someone who mostly boils water, reheats leftovers, and only occasionally bakes, the investment may be overkill. Induction cooking does require compatible cookware magnetic bottom pots and pans, so you'd need to either already own a set or be ready to replace a portion of your existing pots. That upfront cost can catch people off guard, especially if they assume the range works with any pan like a gas stove does. Also, because the unit is 36 inches wide, you need a fairly large cutout in your cabinetry. It's not a drop-in for a compact apartment kitchen. One practical weakness that shows up after a few weeks of use is the learning curve on the control panel. The touch-sensitive knobs are sleek, but they don't give you the tactile click that many people rely on when their hands are wet or covered in flour. A quick mistap can set the temperature a few degrees off, which isn't catastrophic but does mean you need to double-check the display before you walk away. That's a minor annoyance, but something to be aware of if you're used to the turn the dial and feel the click confidence of a gas knob. Another point to consider is the power demand. Induction ranges draw a lot of electricity, especially when you're using 2 or 3 zones on high. If your home's electrical panel is older or you live in an older house with a 100 amp service, you might need an electrician to upgrade the circuit. That's an extra cost that isn't reflected in the price tag you see online, and it's worth confirming with a professional before you order. Overall, the ZLINE Paramount feels like a solid middle ground.